functionally build things in China are around 55, dude. Ah, hold on. So there is a big COVID murdered million. Well, they're not missing if they're. See, when you said this, you said missing. Missing means that they are supposed to be there, but they're not. You're saying murdered, murdered. They didn't get murdered by a virus. They did not survive the virus. That's different. So what we're looking at is they natural selection. They died. Well, yeah, you're right. It technically was murdered because COVID-19 was a man-made virus that was released on the world, and it didn't end well, but it didn't last that long. Less people die from COVID than people die from the flu every year. But it happened so fast and scared the shit out of so many people that it is more important than flu. Because think about it, not 5 million people died worldwide from COVID in 1 year, but 52 million people died from the flu every year. The world doesn't stop because of the 52 million people, and the flu season is technically from like October until now. So there's like a 3 month period out of the year where 52 million people a year die from the flu. But out of 2 years, not 5 million people die from COVID. But again, you know, COVID made the world stop. Now, when you're talking about the 55, there actually has an age gap. There is a 40-year age gap between the 18 and 20-year-olds that are entering the workforce now and the 60-year-olds that are running the country right now. Okay. And when those 60 and 70-year-olds die out, the oldest individuals in the country might be in their early 30s, early 40s. And that's why they have the uh birth incentives in all over Asia. You can go to Asia, you can have babies over there, and the country will pay for the native born children, even if one of the parents is a foreigner, as long as both parents are not foreigners. As long as so one parent has to be a native and the child has to be native born, and the country will pay for the child's upbringing within reason. All you have to do is register the child with the government and be like, hey, let me get some money. Special shout out to TF Fireball jumping in right after Jolin. So yeah, the youth, the people who were mostly impacted were the young ones and the old ones, the ones who didn't have the right immune system, and then the individuals who already had pre-existing health conditions, respiratory problems, cancer, smoking habits, stuff to that effect. So the people between 25 and 55 wasn't really affected by it if you wasn't an avid smoker or already had pre-existing health issues, because it was a fungus that attacked the lungs. So if you didn't have any lung issues, you wasn't really impacted by COVID. I was out there no mask the whole time. Never once got COVID. My buddy gets COVID every 3 weeks. He didn't have COVID so many times in the last 12 months. We don't see each other in person because he gets COVID too many times. He gets COVID more often than a call girl gets an STD. And I'm like, bro, that's too much. He said their bodies were harvested for their organs. I don't know about that. We call it an autopsy. And most people are talked into getting that little heart put on their driver's license when they're a kid, when they get their first driver's license. And they forget about that little heart on their driver's license because all they do is just pay money to renew their license every year. So they don't really know that they volunteered before they knew what they were doing to be an organ donor. So whenever they die from whatever they die from, they have given the government the legal authorization to harvest their organs. So when you pass away for any reason, they do an autopsy, they harvest your organs, they catalog them, and if they can put them to use, they put them to use. Yeah, well, they're missing China is literally becoming a ghost town in terms of the major cities. But one of the problems, yes, organ harvesting. They're not actually becoming a ghost town. When you think about the fact that they have 4 billion people there, we have 385,000 people here, and you see how overpopulated California, New York, Texas, and Florida is. They've got 4 billion people over there, and now they're not overpopulated, bro. One of the things that China's doing is they're starting to build structures underground. Instead of building up, they're building down, which is completely opposite of what we do in America. We build up, we build skyscrapers. They're trying to build to the center of the earth. So you're gonna have like level 54, level negative 54 is gonna be your penthouse suite below ground kind of situation. That's what they're doing. But they're not. It's not really a ghost tech. But if you want, I can double check and see what happened. But I haven't heard of a bioweapon that has gotten rid of 10% of the population since before. Is it trying to hit their numbers though? Well, oh yes. So okay, how many people were impacted by it? They hid their numbers the way the United States hid their numbers. You know that when Katrina hit, they got to a certain number, then they dialed it back, and then they made it seem like less than 50% of the population came up missing. People still unaccounted for. At least 1/3 of that state was never found after the waters subsided. Okay, so here's a question. Do you think since Israel uh, Contarius, the world's that's why I can't get into long-term relationships with a woman? No, I think that because you behave immaturely that you're not able to get into a long-term relationship. And then you're like 14, 15 years old. The girls that are talking to you are not going to find it funny that you're heckling an adult podcast. So when they see you doing that, they're going to think that you're immature and they're going to go off and go and play games with your sister. That's what's going to happen there. uh yeah, the child policy basically doomed to their society. It's not okay. So that original policy, I agree with you, that really set them back. Population control is a horrible thing to do in any country. America did it differently. Instead of restricting uh people from having children, what they did was they gave women abortion and contraceptives. So we can smash as much as we want. We're just allowing the women to get abortions. Then the Republicans stepped in and put a stop to that. So we don't have to worry about paying for the ability to have children. It has been outlawed to have abortions now. So we're going to have as many children as possible. But over in China, they don't actually do abortions over there like talking about it. Well, they did it because they had to. Culturally, they were taught um, culturally they were taught to not have abortions, so they were forced to get abortions for the sake of not being able to house a certain quantity of children. But if it wasn't for that, they'd be out there dropping like flies. They'd be having babies every day. Do you like EFN or ERN better? I don't know either one of those. Yeah, SARS-CoV specifically targeted the ACE2 receptors of the lung cells. See, this is a knowledgeable individual. He's been doing his research. Me too. I didn't have to mask on. Better did the mold uh, remediation for quite a while. Me and mold don't get along, but one of the things that I found out was that with proper ventilation, and you can like bleach the walls and stuff. You can get rid of all of the, a lot of the mold in your household, get that out the vents, and then you won't have to deal with that mold problem. Not too many people know about that. That you can actually put effort into reducing the quantity of mold that happens in your house, and then dust your ceiling fan quite often. Uh, what Charlie Kirk song or do just um I don't think any song. So your question that is related, you try to slide Epstein back in there. I don't think anything related to any of those people are relevant. So I don't like either one of them. I don't have a preference for either one of them. China has never had 4 billion people. It's actually around 1.5 billion at some point. Um, We can check on that. Uh, because it was my understanding that there was roughly 4 billion people over on that side of the country. It might be specifically Asia. Um, let's see. 4.4 billion people are living in Asia specifically, and typically I attribute China to Asia. Uh, I love intellectual people. These are the things I find fascinating. 1.4 billion of the 4 billion people are exclusively in China. Uh, uh, the China population missing idea is referring to the concern that China's total number of people is now falling. And that's not people that have literally disappeared, though. The population has started to decline after peaking at about 1.4 billion in 2020 to 2021, with official analytics estimating putting it around 1.408 billion in 2024. Each year recently, deaths have exceeded births. So the death rate has exceeded the birth rate. So China ends up with several 100,000 to a few million fewer people than the year before, which some articles describe as missing population. This is going to be due to low birth rates, high living costs, and changing family preferences, meaning far fewer babies are being born than in past decades, even after the end of the one child policy. So, at the same time, China has an aging population rising the death toll. So, the overall total keeps edging down, driving headlines about the population crisis or allegedly missing people. So, for clarification, you got me there. It's not specifically 4 billion people exclusively in China. It's 4 billion people in Asia, and China is in Asia. And I just treat China like it is all of Asia because it's like the biggest part of Asia. But out of the 1.4 billion people over there, there is they're not actually missing. They're just not repopulating as much as they should. He said the Pentagon is in entire structure underground with nuclear power plants. Right. Okay, so you're saying well, we build down. Okay, so what I was talking about, we build down. I'm not talking about the military hiding stuff. When is the last time you've seen an apartment or a house underground in the United States for rent? When have you ever seen a 5-story structure below ground in the United States? I don't recall that. We're lucky to find a house with a basement in the United States. But in areas of Asia, you have like China and Hong Kong and stuff like that, they're actually building underground living rental properties, not just military structures, rental properties that are underground. And that is incredible. They also have this scenario where when they do build a structure like an apartment complex or something like that above ground, they build a parking garage below ground instead of building the parking garage next to it or having the parking garage part of the levels of floors. They will put the parking garage below ground, so they're not building to the sky. They're actually building to the center of the earth, which is actually pretty impressive. I'm catching up with you. I got to make sure because he's asking ridiculous questions today, and I want to make sure that they're important before I put him up there. What do you think about the young influencer that has been gaining traction recently, known as what is that? Clavicular? I don't know that person, so I don't have an opinion about him. It's almost like Moe's Tavern because these guys will come in and they'll throw in they'll throw in a name, and if I pronounce it correctly, then it's something stupid or derogatory, and I'm just like, mm, you know. I said keep the random comments appropriately structured. So he's edging here, and it's not a that's I would prefer that he was like more mature about the situation. Yeah, but that's part of India as well. You're right. Yes, Asia, India is going to be right next to China in the area of Asia, inside of Asia. Yes, so for me to just assume that China is so large of a population of Asia is wrong for me to assume. But I always attribute when you say China, I think Asia. And then when I think Hong Kong, I think of New York under Asia. And when you say things like the Philippines, I think Hawaii of Asia. When you think about Japan, I think of the Alaska of Asia. That's how I piece these islands together. It ain't right. It's not geographically correct. But since I've never been there, that's how I associate them. Memory serves as in India actually has the largest population. I wasn't talking about population. I was talking about space. If you look at a map, China looks significantly larger on the top left, I mean, top right, than India on the bottom left. And that is why I assume China is larger. I could be wrong, but I assume that China is larger than India. And I've never compared the populations between the two. So I just correlate them. Yeah, never been out of, neither one of us been out of America. We work too fucking much. The goal is uh, to take pops and leave the country and explore different areas. So I have a time limit to my bucket list, right? Fireball, you're asking me about birth rates in an island that's not supposed to have birth rates, so I don't have an answer for you. Interesting to look up is the actual square footage of many of the countries that we think are very large that aren't. The map has always lied to us. The way the map is structured, the size of the continent is the prioritization of its value to the map maker. It is not by scale the exact same size as other continents. There are some continents like the United States that are far smaller than Asia, which is why Asia can hold 4 billion and the United States holds 385,000. And we don't have enough space, right? So we're not that big, but that would be part of the reason why people put off this misperception that we are the best in the world. Because while we're technically one third the population of China, they got us 3 to 1, if not more, right? And if all of Asia got together and said, let's do it to the United States, there would be like 10 to 1. We would not be able to do anything about it. But we got B 2 bombers, we got nukes. The majority of Americans that are ironically Democrats complaining about the Democratic Party are gunned up, the NRA, than the Republicans that are super gunned up, where they've got more weapons than a safe house on a crime movie. And you just know that the same way we're coming together in protest about the way ICE is doing folks in Memphis, you just know that if we were being invaded by other people, other countries on American soil, and that just came across the news, you already know that we would be sharing our guns with one another to take out the enemy. It is what it is. Like people don't. So you think about a large scale assault on a country that has zero guns in its population. It is the military force versus whatever invasion that happens. But when you put a invasion in a country where everybody with a house or an apartment has ammunition in their house, it is not just you versus the local military, it is you versus everybody that breathes. And if we were smarter at what we did, our children would start learning how to use firearms at 6 years old so that they would be responsible at 8 years old. So that if it went down at 10 years old, 12 years old, 15 years old, our kids would be able to catch our backs in an appropriate fashion. And we would have three generations: grandpa, Paul, and the boys out there, five deep, defending the house. And for equality purposes, we would have the women as snipers in the back row providing support fire. That's an American family that's backing itself up under the Second Amendment. But we've got a lot of people that don't think that way. But then that begs the question: what are we viewing from the NASA footage? That's a good question. What is NASA looking at? Because the footage from the NASA satellite's view of Earth matches the globe that we are seeing for the square footage. Mm, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think. Okay, so water space, yes, but the United States is not that big, and North America is not bigger than Russia. Okay, and there's no and Australia is not that big. So I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to figure it out. Yeah, I learned to use firearms at the same age, about five. That's what I'm telling you. At 5, but you and I grew up in a better generation. We're Gen Xers. We're in our 40s. When we were 5, 6, 7 years old, our daddy was teaching us how to shoot guns, smoke, and drink liquor. We knew at 8, 9, and 10 years old what these kids are experiencing for the first time at 25 in college. The only reason why so many people are afraid of guns is because they ain't never had no use. They've never had experience with it. They've never had exposure to it. They don't know what to do with it. They just know that when they see it on the news that it kills people, and when they see it on on the TV shows and stuff like that, that the people do it wrong and people get hurt. But they don't know how to have one, and they don't know how to use one, and they're scared of the boom when they pull the trigger. So they're not trying to get used to it. But yet they'll go out on the 4th of July and New Year's Eve and Cinco de Mayo and listen to the fireworks. Well, all them fireworks that you listen to is the celebration of when we used to get out there and make those exact same sounds as American citizens defending our territory against invaders. So why are we not learning how to make that sound ourselves instead of spending a bunch of money to pay somebody else to make that sound for us? I don't know. If you like fireworks, you should like firearms. People don't. they they gonna be people that gonna disagree with me on that. But if you like fireworks, you should like firearms because I mean it makes the same, and it'll fix the problem. Because guess what? Guess what? ISIS would not have to do what they're doing if Americans had guns. I'm gonna get to your problem, your question, Max. Give me just a second, because when they come through, the ICE is out there doing what they're doing right now because most Americans are out there in that ICE area with no guns. So ICE can show up two Suburbans deep, 10 guys, and they can flex on one person and have 300 people surrounding that group just with cell phones in their hands. No mace, no rock, no nothing, just cell phones in their hands. And they're afraid to act because clearly everybody's getting out with an AR-15, and with 25, 30 rounds per person, they can mow down 300 people with 10 guys. And they have extra mags because everybody's unarmed. But if those 300 people were out there with ICE and there was 300 guns to 10, I can guarantee you the behavior would be different. I'm not saying interfere with the arrest. I am not saying protect the wanted person. If they're coming to collect a specific person by design, it is your responsibility to allow them to collect that person. However, because Good Samaritan laws is that we're supposed to aid law enforcement in taking action on enforcing the law when they're behaving correctly. But just like Malcolm X, when they're not doing it right, like the way this woman just got murdered recently, when they're not doing it right, when they're shooting at the crowd, when they're not doing it right, when they're pepper spraying people in the face because the officer himself, or not even he's not even an officer, the agent is afraid of unarmed civilians with cell phones. So they're pepper spraying the unarmed civilians with cell phones who are not throwing anything. They're not attacking the officers. They're more than 20 feet away from the scenario, which is their legal right to do. And they want to make them go home. And if they don't go home and go inside, they will arrest them. That's not behaving correctly. I should be able to watch what you do in my neighborhood. And then if I don't like what you're doing, I should be able to report that, whether I report that to the police or if I have to report that to my local government to let them know that while, yes, they are supposed to be doing a sweep to collect non Americans, it does not require them to kill people in the process. They should technically be out here primarily unarmed using stun guns and tasers and billy clubs. I would prefer not the billy clubs, but stun guns and tasers because they should be using non lethal force to remove any unauthorized personnel from the United States. Because the people they're catching are not armed. They don't have legal rights to have guns. That's a Second Amendment constitutional right for American citizens. Not one report that anybody has shot at ICE trying to prevent from being collected. So why is ICE armed to the teeth? That makes no sense. Now let's see what Max has to say. He says, Xander, what do you think of scared geometry and the golden ratio? What is the golden ratio, Max? That's a good question. What is the gold ratio? Let me see what he's talking about real quick about this gold ratio. Because the gold ratio sounds important. Oh, so the golden ratio is usually written as a Greek letter, phi, and is defined as a positive solution to x equals 1 plus 1 over x, which is given as phi equals 1.618. Okay. Uh, this is the line segment that cuts the golden ratio if the whole length divided by the longer part equals the longer part divided by the shorter part, and both ratios equal to phi. I think that that is confusing. That's what I think that is. And I think if they're giving you that at your current grade level, I think that your teachers are being mean to you, Max. That's what I think. Okay, so he says, my collar's blue, but my deck is red. I've been working like a dog just to keep my family fed. Yep, yep, definitely. I feel the same way. Unfortunately, while not too many people like the way Democrats do what they do with when it comes to gun laws, all of the not all of but most of the laws that are provided by the Democratic Party are there for the American people that are working from paycheck to paycheck. It is not necessarily there uh, to help the people who don't need financial assistance. The Democratic Party is not by design a capitalist party. It is by design a communist party because their goal is to have the resources given to the government by the full quantity of people to be redistributed primarily to the poor because the poor is going to spend the money and the money is going to go back into the pockets of the rich. But the Republican Party is more so going to take the money from all of the people and then utilize it to pay the bills for the country and then give tax breaks to the rich. Now, since the rich own all of the business that the poor people pay into, The rich are gonna not have to give any money to the government or not have to give as much money to the government, and then the rich gets more money from the profits made from the businesses that they own. He says, no, I pimp myself out to local contractors, etc., to build things that aren't they're incapable of, and I charge quite a bit. That's that's what you're supposed to do. 1099s. You're trying to put that out there. You're trying to get it out there. uh, Subcontracting work. So he's a carpenter and a tradesman. He's the kind of guy who uses his skills legally to make money, but he compromises his availability and he compromises his personal preferences so that he can be available for money to earn the right to take care of his family. So whatever they need done that they're not capable of doing, he finds a way to circumvent himself into their scenario so that he can turn a profit from that. I respect that. But essentially, I'm pimping out myself exactly. Okay, so he says, you boomers are very funny because you guys always flex that you were outside shooting guns and barefoot in the woods, but then you same guys call the cops on kids skateboarding down the street. Now, you know what? The reason why that is, Max, is because when we were your age, we had the ideology that it takes a village to raise a child. Okay, and what that means is that if you are somewhere behaving in a way that is socially unacceptable, your mommy and daddy ain't got to come and bust your ass. The neighbor can do it. The supermarket clerk can do it. The usually somebody's mom sees you misbehaving with your friend, and if it's your friend's mom, you get a whooping and your friend get a whooping. And then they tell your mom and dad that they beat your ass. And then when you get home, your parents will beat your ass because the neighbors had to beat your ass. Back when we were your age, we were taught to respect our family's legacy. Don't embarrass the family. So we were not supposed to do anything that would make us feel shame when the rest of the people come out into public with us. Our family is represented by our behavior. So if we behave badly, we bring shame to our family, right? So when our parents found out that we did something shameful that our parents would have to apologize for, even after we already got a whooping from the neighbor, we got a whooping from the teacher, we probably got a whooping from the dean or the disciplinarian at the school. Then we get home and we catch another whooping from mom. And if dad lives in the house, we catch a whooping from dad. And we had the types of families back in the day where if we went to grandma's house and told grandma during the holidays, we got another whooping. Auntie, uncle got another whooping. Some of the time, they you gotta do a progress report and say, "Nah, I already whooped his ass for it," so that you don't get a fifth and sixth whooping. Now, modern times, your parents don't beat your ass like they should, which is why you can heckle a podcast because if you're not learning something, you shouldn't be here. But then society can't beat your ass. Teachers can't put their hands on you. Principals can't put their hands on you. Neighbor can't put their hands on you because your parents will call the police or attack the adults because the adults are providing the discipline on the children that the children are not getting from their parents. Now, to prevent us from getting in trouble with your parents because you are not behaving correctly in front of us, we will call the police so that the police can beat your ass because the police still got the right to bust your ass whether you want them to or not. Now, when the police finish beating your ass and dragging you back to your mama and them, clothes all ripped up, in handcuffs, mace all over your face and shit, then your mama and daddy gonna have a nice little talk with you about the fact that you should not be behaving the way you behave and where you're behaving at. And that is why us boomers, because I can tell you right now, Second Amendment strong. It is within reach. I don't go nowhere without it. I'm in the courthouse parking lot with it. You feel me? And at the end of the day, if y'all was skateboarding in front of my car, I would call the police so that they could come get you so that I don't go to jail for what I would have done to you if I would have dealt with this myself. That's why the old folks is calling the police on y'all. Because you got to understand that there's a time and a place for everything. So you should be able to find, not in front of a school, not in front of a library, You should find a skate park that is solely designed for you to go skating and go skate there. You're not just doing tricks off of any type of structure in the city. That's inappropriate. And when you do that and you're practicing in front of a business, you're loitering, which you're not supposed to do. And that causes a problem for the business. Too many of y'all blocking the door will discourage customers from going in. That is going to cause problems for the business. So if you found an appropriate place to do your skating, nobody's there, abandoned building, I don't, well, I would prefer not an abandoned building, but if you're going somewhere like a parking lot that's the store is closed now, nobody's there, you're not spray painting anything, you're just out there hanging out with your skateboard and stuff, that's fine. But when you're interfering with day-to-day operations so that you can practice your skateboarding and you feel like you have the right to do that while disrespecting somebody else and not caring because they can't put their hands on you, that's why we call the police. If they ask you to move on, they should be able to tell you, hey, hey, don't do that here. And you should be able to say with respect, I'm sorry, and skate on down the street and go find another place to be. But if they tell you anything about you skating and you disrespect them, you curse them out, oh, you can't tell me what to do, I do whatever I want kind of behavior, they're gonna call the police before they put their foot in your ass because that's what should have happened if they should have put their foot in your ass. And I'm a firm believer of putting foots in asses. Boomers are from Vietnam vets and hippies, and look, and that's true. So, Joel, we're called boomers when actually boomers are our grandfathers. You got boomers are from the '60s. We're not baby boomers. We're the Gen X generation. We are the last generation of corporal punishment in the household. After our generation, after the '80s, it was called child abuse. But in the '80s, it was called discipline. Boomers are from the '60s and '70s. They were born in the '50s and '60s. They were between 20 and 30 in the '70s with drugs and alcohol and disco and strobe lights and all this disco balls and platform shoes with fish in them and shit like that. That's in the '70s. That's boomers. Us in the '80s with affirmative action and in living color and women wearing suits with shoulder pads and shit, Miss Independent, that is the Gen X series. Yeah, we're the offspring of the boomers. Well, boomers and offspring of boomers is talking about both, and we all do it the same way. We wrote the book on acting ass. Y'all follow y'all copying what we did when we was y'all age. 30 years ago, we was skating off of shit too. But when they told us to leave, we left. Would you Alger? No, I wouldn't do any one of those. Neither one of those. The golden ratio has to do with the yeah. So I looked up that. I have to catch up with the comment section. The planets, the stars, the galaxy, etc., including movements of electrons, Eddie's current, and the golden ratio. Yep. But also DNA structure. See, now this is biology, the DNA structure of plants, and the binary function of the human body and everything on this planet is also based on the structure of phi. Ooh. See, now that's intellectual. For instance, some mathematical formulas that governs the movement of electrons in your battery or around your power line are the same mathematics that govern the structure of the leaf or the root. Now that's something y'all can learn from. Y'all need to pay attention to this guy. Um, but what do you think? I'm just a carpenter. What if I know I'm just a carpenter? He is smart as fuck carpenter. What? You drove the Nebuchadnezzar with Morpheus and Neo. Yeah, actually, I did. Learn that myself from Aaron. Leering. Okay. Looks like you haven't met my parents. They beat me super good. They should have caught. You should have got like 6 or 7 whoopings just for asking that question about skateboarding. Where's my child support? Steady playing on YouTube with who is that? Lil Daquan needs school shoes. I don't know who Lil Daquan is. I appreciate you coming in though. Ain't no child support coming from this guy. I don't have kids to pay child support for. Uh, Tracy is a Kamala voter who is okay, hold on. Was the last person talking Tracy? Oh, okay. He got me quick. Movement. Okay. Maybe not March, but post. Holy crap. Yep. Yes. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. You see how she jumped real quick in. She don't even know who I am, bro. She threw me under the bus with the damn child support, bro. First and foremost, I just want to talk about child support real quick since we just doing a random slew of conversation today. Um, let real quick. Child support is supposed to be about taking care of the child. Now, child support is supposed to require co-parenting. Mom is supposed to tell dad what the fuck the child needs. Then dad is supposed to see if he can afford to get that. Some stuff the child doesn't really need you to get because she's got insurances or he's got insurances for the child, right? But anything that's not covered under the child support, I mean, under the child's insurance, if the child needs that, dad is supposed to know about that, and then dad is supposed to go and get that. Now, some dads just give cash to cover what the child needs. And women have historically used this as a premise to bleed men for money. But technically, if you get a list, like a wish list, a school supply list, a efforts list of the things that the child needs, the father should be able to buy what the child needs. And if you smart dad, take all the receipts off and damage the item, mark off on the write the child's name into the clothes and shit like that where they cannot return it to the store because it's been damaged, right? So buy it and then mark all over it so that they can't return it. Buy them school clothes and write all over it. And then now the kids got school clothes. Buy shoes and write all in the shoes so the kids got shoes, school shoes. Write their name on the shoes so they can't return them to the store. The best you can do is sell them to the Goodwill because the store not gonna take it back when you wrote on the shoes, right? Then you get them school supplies. You write the child's name all over the school supplies so that the child you can't return nothing back to the store because when they write in the book can't be resold to somebody else. It's damaged goods. So if you do that, then you get the child everything the child needs, and the child is set. Now, women want to say, "Oh well, what if I can't afford to pay my rent?" That's your fucking problem. If you can't take care of my child, give me my child. Right now, the other half of this scenario is that if your household would have had this bill anyway, then I'm not paying for that shit. I pay for what my child impacts this scenario. I do not pay for what my child does not impact this scenario. Your car is not my child's responsibility because your car will still be there whether my child was there or not. Your hair and your nails, that's not my child's responsibility. Your hair and your nails would have been your shit whether my child was there or not. If you would have got an abortion and that bill still would have been there, I shouldn't have to pay for that shit. You understand? Now, women don't agree with that. Women believe that a man should subsidize a woman's income because she has primary control over the child. But she also doesn't want to give primary control over the child to the man. Explain the logic. If the child is a financial burden on you and the father wants that burden, give him his child. Let him figure it out because he's not going to ask you for child support. He just wants his child. Give him that respect. But these women be out there assed out though. Okay. So Jim likes to go Diddy style. Show proof. Show proof of what? The ass whoopings? I don't know. Uh, Chuck surfing and running from the police while drunk. Yep, I remember that. That's a long time ago. My ex-wife listened to her and she died. um, what do you think of the who is that? Euler's pentagonal number theory. Help me out. Euler's is an exponential math. Look, he's going to help me out because I was not going to answer that question. The pentagon is a shape that is actually found in nature, like the storm on Saturn, or a stop sign, because that's also a pentagonal shape. The uh, pole of Saturn, rather. Okay, so that's good. And he says the magnetic pole. And is the universe alive? Yes, of course, because it's forever moving. What do you think of integration information theory, the mathematical model for the consciousness of a system? Here we go. They're gonna learn some stuff. Energy equals information equals consciousness. I think, therefore I am. Human perception of consciousness. Now that is the question. Well, that it answers itself because the human perception, we realize that we are here because we recognize that we're here. At least they're asking math related topics. They're purging the comments with a lot of math. I love another pentagonal shape, pomegranate course, or pomegranate because it is a uh, dota, do, dodecahedral cahedron. Okay, I'm trying to pronounce that hard. The octagon is a stop sign. I thought that we were talking about octagons earlier. Hold on. Oh, pentagonal is not octagon. Okay. Eight sides, not a pentagon, which is five sides. Appreciate you, Jolin. It has pentagonal has 12 faces. The dodecahedron. These are hard to pronounce, y'all. I got. We can type it better than we can say it because these aren't used in regular conversation. Um, wow, we just flooded an hour of just that. 12 zodiacs, 12 hours of the day is quite a powerful number as well. Now, that is interesting. So, technically, there's 13 zodiacs. They only acknowledge 12 of them. If you name all of the zodiac, well, you're talking about the zodiac signs themselves, the constellation, or the zodiac animals, because there's 13 zodiac animals, 12 constellations, which makes no sense. Technically, there's supposed to be 13 months in a year, but they mapped it out in a way where we ended up with 12. There's not 12 hours in the day. There's more than 24 hours in a day, but because we do it on a 24-hour schedule and we do 12 a.m. hours and 12 p.m. hours, we have a 12 and 12 scenario. Or at least I guess they're trying to imply that there's 12 daytime hours and then 12 nighttime hours, but we typically run 15 daytime hours and then less than that for nighttime hours, especially in the summertime, and then it's vice versa in the wintertime where we have more nighttime hours than we have daytime hours, which is why they have daylight savings time to move everything an hour forward. There we go. Dodecahedron pronunciation. Can Adrian explain his friend group? Who is Adrian? And I don't know what friend group they have. Adrian isn't even in the comment section. I see a Leonardo. Yeah, Adrian isn't in the comment section. That's true. There are 13 zodiacs to do with the 13 bloodlines, but they reduced it to 12 so as they could hide it, hide that 13th bloodline. Yeah, the 13th zodiac sign. Interesting, isn't it? So historically, actually, it was in the Roman Empire when the calendar went to 12. The current calendar that we use right now is a Roman calendar, or at least a modified variation of the Roman calendar. Originally, the winter time wasn't calculated; they only calculated summer. And then, because back in the day, before we had all the technology, like people would prepare for the summer, put everything in the house, and stay home until the winter. Now, fuck that. We're getting in the car and we're driving in the snow, snow plows and all. We're gonna make it work. It's like 30 degrees outside right now in some areas in the United States, and probably colder than that in some areas in Asia. And yet, we're still going outside. We're still going to work. We're still doing stuff that we used to not do 1,000 years ago. Advancements in technology. Dodecahedron is theoretically significant as uh, what is that? Plato's symbol for the universe and cosmos. Okay, I'm letting the conversation run, guys. I don't know. I had like 10 comments that I was gonna play on the show, and I was like, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna run with what y'all got going on today. I'll fuck around and play it next week. I'll hold it for next week Sunday. I'm not gonna stop y'all from. Oh Lord, he said, Why do all sums equal to -1 and 112 according to Rama Ramanuja Ramanujan? That's a good question too. So no matter how much teaching I teach, no adult remembers everything about everything. Good answer. Human consciousness. So you guys are taking turn. I don't know if there's one person using two phones or if the both of them are in the same room next to each other laughing about our responses to these questions. The value is not the result for all sums. It's for specifically the value assigned to the divergent sum of all natural numbers. Okay, there we go. He said International Falls is -60 degrees. What are you doing outside in -60 degrees in Minnesota? Minnesota should be inside until March. It is too damn cold to be outside in -60 degrees. Sheesh. I'm outside with a space heater at 30 degrees. Talking about some warmer suit. We have applied a system of mathematics that corresponds to our psychology, to everything we know. What is that? Tertenary, ty, ter, Trinitary. I am exhausted. Look, dyslexia is coming in here. So it's based on being that would have different types of mathematics, exponential curvatures. Um, to sum that up, there are different mathematical concepts that are used in different mathematical scenarios based on the needs to evaluate certain concepts, and we use math to explain a lot of our physiology and a lot of our psychology and a lot of our behavioral patterns, which is where anthropology comes from. Sociology is a form of anthropology, which is the study of human behavior on a macro level scale that can be utilized from calculations, mathematical calculations. The same way we can calculate the probability of something falling off the table, we can calculate the probability of a person performing a specific action. It's based on historical data, previous behavior patterns, and then the likelihood of responses similar to or different from previous behavioral patterns. Now, it is still going to come from the psychological, not psychological, the biological or chemistry concepts of theory and hypothesis, but it's still going to be based off of mathematical analysis. And because we're binary, that's one of the reasons why they were talking about those implants in our hands and in our heads, so that we can, uh, so that we could utilize our binary, internal binary code to activate electronic devices. They were talking about that a long time ago with T-Mobile being able to implant uh, devices in our head. I tried to give you a pass, but the it was T-Mobile and a few other phone companies that was like 10 or 15 years ago that were talking about doing implants either in the hand or in the head, so that we uh would be able to use our brains to activate electronics. And my concern with that was, me and Mr. Pitts talked about this last year. My concern was that if in the event that our brains could control electronics, that there would be a logic of electronics being able to control our brains, a lot like that movie Game On, um, which was pretty interesting. He said, if you can get a degree in economics, can you cheat by supporting Israel? No, you can get a degree in economics, but that has nothing to do with Israel. He said Unk is non-binary. I don't know. Based on historical algorithms throughout history, tell Mike, black pill. No matter what pill you take, you're still taking a pill to define your consciousness. And that's why I blocked him, because when they come through with that bullshit, I was just like, nope. I put him on timeout, and then he dumped back in with another bullshit. And I was like, nope, that's not gonna work for me. Michael didn't hit the button fast enough. Still the same matrix. Well, the concept is that either we're asleep or this is reality. And if we are asleep and we're enjoying this shit, why wake up? But if we are asleep and we are not enjoying this situation, why not wake up? Now, there's technically only the red pill and the blue pill, but I agree with Joel, and I would do the black pill, a green pill. I would try anything other than what we got going on right now, because it's either stay in the bullshit that we got going on right now, or finally, for the first time, experience the unknown, hypothetically considering there is an unknown. We had this conversation once before. Theoretically, when you go to sleep, you could be going to the real world where you're actually awake. And if that were, are your dreams better than your awake time? Essentially reality. Because if not, you probably want to stay asleep. You know they're going to microchip everyone eventually. Do you think I should get a Leafort 3 osteotomy and in what the hell implant? No. As soon as you said black implant, no. I don't think you should get any kind of implant. she, then the girls will like me only for my looks. No, you should not get any type of implant for any reason. That does not end well. Dr. Jose Delgado, 1960, stopping the raging bull in Middle in mid charge with electrodes grafted to the brain. What was the result of that head transplant? Do you know? Did anybody hear the results of that head transplant? Because I heard that it was successful, but the guy's still in a coma. It's like they took a live person's head and put it on another person's body. Let's see. So from what I hear, it didn't work. Um, Surgeons and researchers have performed experimental head transplants on animals such as dogs and monkeys, where the transplanted head could see, smell, or move facial muscles for a short time. These animals survived only hours to days, uh, remained paralyzed because their spinal cord were not truly reconnected, and the procedures were widely criticized on ethics grounds. Um, let's see, the man who did the first human transplant, what was the result? Uh, so this was Italian neurosurgeon Sergio Canavero working with a Chinese surgeon, Zhao Peng Ren. The operation that drew headlines was not done on a living person, allegedly, but as a rehearsal on two human cadavers. So there was no surviving patients and no clinical results in the usual sense. In 2017, an announcement that the team had performed a head transplant style procedure between two human corpses, claiming they successfully connected the spine, nerves, and blood vessels during an 18-hour operation. This was essentially a technical practice run. So I'm guessing that the guy that was involved in the head transplant that volunteered for this did not make it because they said that 10 years later they were going to talk about it. Can you bake 6 million pieces in a few years? That's a good question. Why don't you look at the results from Papa John's, Domino's, and Pizza Hut? Sacred geometry is important because Professor Robert Moon at the University of Chicago suggested that the entire periodic table of elements is based off the platonic solids. Okay, they can measure the conscious, I imagine, but yeah, he's still in a coma. I I thought he's either still in a coma or he's dead, one way or another. Because I know they did a head transplant, but ain't nobody talking about it. Where in the brain does the soul live? See, now that's an interesting question, Michael, because allegedly the soul was supposed to be in people's chest. That's what some people say when they say, "Oh, it's in your heart and soul right here." But technically, your soul should be up here because you could do a heart transplant and still be the same person. Well, who has ever had a brain transplant? The Russian experiment with that too. Yeah, yeah, and that's what I wanted to find out about. First heart transplant was done in South Africa. Are you talking about the one where they didn't eat the heart? Although, if I remember right, Nas's experiment also did an occult magic application as well as medical science. The rumors were quite different levels of success. You know, when they start talking about the occult, they technically try their best to take everything out of the media. So whatever the resolution was, we're probably not going to know about it. But from what I understand, that guy went in, never came out. If his body is in cryo sleep, whenever they do pull him out, if they fail, they're not going to tell us they failed. Because I mean, after they finish telling us about cloning, uh, okay, I just scrolled into this. What's this live about? So typically, this live podcast, you should always click on when you scroll into a new channel with a live podcast or your For You page. You should always take it upon yourself and click on that person's profile, go to their bio, and read the entire show, what it's about, because that's usually what it's about. Or you can go through and look at all of the other videos that they have put up so that you can find out what kind of stuff they post. Then you know what kind of show it's about. Typically, this show is about your ability to improve yourself, how to make, save, and invest money Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays, and how to make better personal decisions on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So, as Sunday is questions and comments from the fans, I like to help everybody get their ridiculous questions off of their chest, or any off-topic questions off of their chest, or anything they really truly want to learn about off of their chest that is not directly related to the topics that are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so that when we're on topic with how politics impact our money on Monday, how to make extra money that we don't have to be present for on Tuesday, or how we budget money on Tuesday, or how we invest money on Tuesday, different countries to live in on Wednesday or invest in on Wednesday, digital nomads on Wednesday, uh, all kinds of stuff we talk about, offshore accounts, trust, all of this other stuff. Then on Thursdays, networking and relationships and personal development, like socialization, how to provide non-negotiable expectations for your friends, your family, your workplace, being able to build a better work-life balance, being able to start your 20-year plan so that you can find yourself at $1 million in 10 years, or at least the very least at a $500,000 in 10 years and $1 million in 20 years, recognizing life choices that negatively impact your financial success. But it requires 7 days a week for you guys to come back, because we do a different show about something different every day of the week. And we're here on the holidays, we're here on the weekends, we're here every day of the week. There's 366 days in a year, and we're here all 366 days. That's how that works. We don't take no days off. Now, while we don't always start on time, we do not let the sun rise without going live. That's what this show is about. But today there's a lot of random stuff. Max Opposer and TF Fireball are doing a good job providing complex questions to keep us from touching base on anything else. And Jolin is politely responding to all of the questions, because this is the first time we have been trolled with positive questioning about educational stuff, as opposed to the negative and inappropriate questions that troll the podcast. So let's see. Max says, "What do you think about modern day signals and frequencies, such as Wi-Fi signals, interfering with the Earth's natural electromagnetic frequency of 7.83 hertz, also known as the Schumann uh, resonance?" I don't really care. My problem is the Wi-Fi signal not picking up, and then we have the frame drops when I'm doing my live podcast. If there was a situation where I could do like fiber optics and have the ground lines, so that I would be able to not have what just happened here, the frame drop, that I would prefer that. I don't really care if it resonates with the Earth's frequency, because if the Earth's frequency ends up causing the Earth to stop moving, then I get to move faster. If you could transplant a head, could you make see, you're gonna make me put you in a timeout. Sherman's resonance was originally 7.682 hertz. I actually have old engineering textbooks that show this. See, y'all got the right one. We got geniuses in here between Michael and Jolin. We got geniuses in here. Y'all gonna learn more stuff in this podcast tonight than what you two would have learned if y'all took y'all behind the class and did your homework. And it is after midnight. Y'all should be in bed asleep. It is a Sunday night. Y'all got school in the morning. I appreciate y'all coming, but I don't even know why y'all even up this late at night. Yeah, it's all the same kind of idea that they change the natural harmonic of C from 433 hertz to 4.44 hertz. I catch a radio station doing that. My father was an electrical acoustic engineer with U.S. patents in an exponential curvature based spherical speaker enclosure. And if y'all remember that topic, he was the reason why y'all got JBLs and Bose and all that other shit, but his daddy got jacked. Yes, back in our day, we learned from our daddies. Nowadays, 82% of the time, the men aren't there to teach their children, based on the child custody states where the courts keep the families in limbo for 10, 15 years and the children grow up without their dads. And the moms are not giving the children what the children need, not because the moms aren't capable. Well, technically, they're not capable of doing it, but because it is not in their understanding to provide the other half. Because every child, boy or girl, needs both the knowledge from mom and the knowledge of dad. Whatever mom doesn't have as knowledge, dad is supposed to provide the child. And the children are growing up with just one parent, and the children are growing up missing half of the information they need to be successful. Electroacoustic engineer, that was one of his master's degrees, four in total. See, that's what I'm telling you. We were smart back in the day. U.S. Navy SEAL, Vietnam, ECM. My father was in the Army, 76, 65 to 68. Ooh, her daddy older than my daddy. Masteries for engineering. See, remember to like and subscribe. Michael be playing, sucking and put some thumbs down it. Technically, you could. I'm gonna put it up there just because you can thumbs down it. I don't give a fuck. They still people still watching it. Basically, I can build and understand anything mechanical, electrical, structural, or chemical. But he got to be careful about what he builds because he could end up being picked up by the FBI, like that boy who made that hydroponic car, the car that runs on oil on water only. Yeah, they come and get you. They say he's just a carpenter. Everything such as mathematics, philosophy, geometry, proof of some sort of divine realm, creator, and higher levels of consciousness, but things are perverted in ways of evil. Well, the thing is that anything that we don't understand, we're shunned. Anything that we don't agree with, we shun. So what technically is being identified as evil is just stuff that the last generation doesn't approve of. Um, Women will call a man evil because she doesn't like the way he treated her. Men will call a woman evil because he doesn't like the way she treated him. But they're not necessarily evil. They're just unfavorable in the eyes of the person that is observing their behaviors and their conduct. Um, which that's a philosophical standpoint. Now, when it comes down to the higher levels of consciousness and divine realms will be something to the magnitude of godlike, and you have to understand that when you start looking at godlike, you're looking at a being that no one has ever seen or heard from that has the power to mass produce things that are mass producing themselves. So, one of the things that I've come to understand historically from philosophy is how I'm not saying that a higher power doesn't exist, but if the higher power started the process 5,000 years ago and the higher power created a self replicating product, and for 5,000 years, through wars and natural disasters and catastrophic world domination, the self-replicating objects, beings, still are capable of self-replication and personal development, almost like the artificial intelligence that we're aiming to do right now. When in the last 100 years has the divine being stepped in and made a change, for better or for worse? We would not be able to prove that. We blame positive things on a positive divine being, and then we blame negative things on a different being. Now, it is understood that the entire structure of the model of our existence is allegedly supposed to be created by a higher power. And based on that logic, even the negative stuff was created by the same person that created the positive stuff, right? The same way we make machines now to deliberately break down so that we can sell more instead of making machines that never break, so that we wouldn't make any money. The first light bulb would never go out. Now they make light bulbs that are fallible. After a certain number of usages, the light bulbs have to be replaced. So the thing is that they designed it with a flaw. If it's deliberately designed with a flaw, even the flaws were by the design by the same creator. So why are we praising the same person that causes our misery, or the same entity that causes our misery? Because the misery was cre- constructed in the design of our existence. Then, when we start talking about a miracle is actually the probability of success that is so low it is unimaginably possible. But still, in all, it is the ability to take advantage of an opportunity at the most unexpected time. That is a miracle. The car blows up. You haven't caught on fire yet. You climb out of the car before you catch on fire. You survived a car explosion. It's a miracle. No, you didn't just sit in the car and wait for yourself to blow up. You got out of that bitch. You didn't wait for yourself to melt. So the fact is that while most things can be explained, the things that can't be explained is always put into a divine realm. Just because we can't explain it doesn't mean that there isn't a logical reason why it occurred. Michael says physics as we know it changes and higher frequencies. True. Because I would like to learn about my neighbor. Did that? He was a Pro Bowl rider on the turn. Oh, and then turned into a sleep medical doctor. Ooh, that's interesting. 21 40 hours here. Whew. Did you know that if you take the shape of the dodecahedron and make it into a speaker, the hertz it will give off fit the golden ratio? Well, he did tell you that his daddy specialized in that, so yeah, he would know. It's fun to find old manuals on electronics, water dynamics, frequency, and modulations. Yeah, you're right. Books books are baffling. You can visually see the formations. Ooh, that would be interesting to see. I was wondering if you see how I wrote it. Let me go back and see how you wrote it. I see manuals spelled like the man named Manuel. I see it as God allows bad things to happen to see what we do, what we are going to do about it. Well, see, now here's the thing. Here's the thing. If we were being watched by a higher power, not self sufficient, just like an ant farm, just like a chicken coop, just like a herd of sheep, if things are not going the way they're supposed to, there would be intervention. Now, not dismissing God in and of itself, we have taught our children and our children's children and our children's children's children that things that are all beyond our control are God's power, God's will. Then we turn around and say that the acts of the Lord or done, or the will of the Lord is done through the acts of men. So when people treat us like shit, that is the will of God. When we survive a natural disaster, that is also the will of God. Uh, we pray for the strength that we were already given to survive. We pray for salvation when we have the willpower to save ourselves. There are situations that are so far beyond our control that we're probably not going to survive that. We're going to call that God's plan, right? Now, we could also identify it as natural selection. We could identify it as not having the proper tools and the proper training to survive, to thrive, to exist. And then we can also wrap it up into a scenario where we just didn't apply ourselves enough and we failed. Or we could put the responsibility on an entity that nobody sees or hears from ever. Just throwing that out there. AI will be the downfall of mankind. So we're going to have Terminator 20. Skynet is happening in real life. It's going to have a Tesla logo on its chest and a Digitech logo on its ass, and they're going to conquer the world. We're going to have human shaped AI that are going to be capable of doing everything a human does. And then we're going to have the Matrix reloaded because when machines look like people, people start dating the machines because the machines are not as complicated as people. We stop reproducing because we stop interacting with humans. We only interact with robots because the robots are cooperative. Then we start creating machines as children instead of reproducing because we don't want to deal with humans. Then we end up dying out as a species and the machines take over. Or the machines can clearly, with autonomy, rebuild themselves, eventually be put in governmental powers because a machine will make more logical and rational decisions than biased decisions from human beings, which takes away from the empathy and the mercy of the courts. Then, when the hierarchy is a machine that has zero tolerance towards the law, humanity, who wants mercy and forgiveness for deliberately breaking the law, will rebel against that hierarchy, and that's when we will have humans versus machines. Another variation of the Terminator. God helps those who help themselves. And faith without work is dead, which also means that for those individuals who believe in a higher power, even that phrase itself, that God helps those who help themselves, if you have the energy to push that car uphill, then at the end of the day, God doesn't have to help you to push that car uphill. The car never levitates, the car never gets lighter. If anything, somebody might see you pushing the car up the hill and they might help you push the car up the hill. But it requires that person to have the willpower to stop what they're doing to help you push the car up the hill. So, was it God that helped you in that situation, or was it the other person who didn't want to see you suffer? Just really going in on that one side of things. I just want to touch base on that real quick. Is that, bro, you literally have well, first of all, I don't have fake books in the background. And I know that usually I block people when they're paying attention to the background. So this, I'm going to touch base on this, and I want you to understand this. So I wanted some drapes to block my. I have blackout drapes in front of my window. Okay, blackout drapes to block the window. I don't give a shit about this podcast. But instead of me having a straight up white wall behind me, I don't have anything on the wall. I got some drapes that look like something. So that when I'm in my 16 by 9 form, there is something back there instead of a white wall. If I had a wall full of awards, WWE titles, uh, YouTube buttons, then I probably would just have a white wall full of awards back there. But because I don't have all that, I actually have the drapes behind the window because there's a window here. I didn't put this in front of a wall. There's a whole window right here. Okay. And I put that there specifically because one, I don't like looking at straight up normal drapes. And then two, if I would have had black curtains back here or something like that, y'all would swear to God I had a green screen behind it. So I can't save you guys from the idiotic comments of paying attention to what's going on in the background. Only the adults are mature enough to say that's a nice pattern and ignore it. But the childish mentality is to imply that I put fake books behind me when I don't have to. If I really, really, really wanted to, really put something behind me of value, of meaning, I would have gotten a green screen from wall to wall. So even on a 16 by 9 variation, that the entire wall would be covered with a green screen. And then I would put something in the background that would be moving so that you could tell it's a green screen. But you would be like, wow, that is a good green screen image in the background. But guess what? Not only would you do that, some jackass would still come in there and say, you're on the green screen. You can't win for losing. It could be a white wall. I'm sitting in the chair in a white wall, and somebody's going to make a comment about the chair I'm sitting in. Some jackass is going to make a comment about the prescription glasses that I'm wearing. Some jackass is going to make a comment about the shirt that I'm wearing. I wore this shirt because it's fucking 30 something degrees outside. It's 66 degrees in my house. I'm cold. Normally I'm in a suit, but right now I'm in a turtleneck because it's fucking cold. The people do things for a reason, and then immature individuals will comment on it as if you caught me slipping. It's there for a reason. It is there so that it is nighttime at noon. That's why it's there, not to entertain you people. But I'm glad you brought it up, though. People worry about death and forget to live. One of the things I dislike about the church is that the church always puts so much emphasis on giving your entire life to the church so that your next life will be better than this life. The church does not encourage you to put all of your effort into this life so that this life is better than what it was when you first started this life. Give everything to the pastor so that his $30 million church and his brand new Bentley gives you a better feeling in yourself when you go home to your roach infested apartment after you walk there when the church is driving around in Bentleys and Rolls Royces and shit, and you can't even get a ride from the pastor, but you're walking home and you got to go to work. You spent your whole morning having somebody tell you that you're going to hell. And then, when you get home, you're supposed to feel better about the shit life that you have when you just gave 10% of your income to a person who will not give that money back if you can't afford to pay your rent for 3 months. The church is supposed to be there for the people, not just for your spirit. They're supposed to be there for the people. In order for you not to commit sin, like stealing, lying, cheating, killing for the fact that you were stealing, lying, or cheating. The church is supposed to provide you with a safe haven so that you don't have to commit sin, which means that they're not just there for your soul. They're there for your entire livelihood because they're supposed to show you how to behave better. They're supposed to show you how to make better decisions. They're supposed to show you how to take better care of yourself, how to take better care of your family, how to take better care of your neighbors so that you can be a better person all the way around. Any Christian that claims to be a true Christian is supposed to be behaving like the homeless Jesus in the freaking book where he had nothing. And every time he had more than what he needed, he shared it with everybody around him. And not one person that claims to be a Christian gives every extra item they have in their house to the next person. They got 3 cars, drive 2 of them, and the other one is just in case. And will drive past people who are walking and won't give them a ride. Okay? So yeah, they worry more about death. And a lot of entities, churches, just like insurance policies, life insurance and health insurance, bank off of your fear of death. I don't want to burn in hell, so I'm going to give all of my money to this guy who's going to tell me, or this girl, because we have female pastors now, who's going to tell me that I'm going to hell because I'm not giving away enough of my money to the church. But show me a church that's rebuilding the neighborhood that the church is in. Show me a church that is providing better housing for the low income individuals that go to that church. Show me a church that is taking homeless people off the street and reincorporating them back into society. Show me a church that doesn't judge people because they're filthy, they're dirty, they're dressed like whores. Show me a church that does not judge. The congregation judges every single time. But he who is without sin is supposed to cast the first stone, and we are not supposed to judge. That is supposed to be for the second coming. So why are we going to churches where the people in the church are not behaving like Christ would behave? If you're an asshole, be an asshole. I'm okay with that. Just don't be an asshole to me. We've already got killer robots in war right now. Exactly. Special shout out to Byron. I was going to get to your comment, buddy. I'm going down the list. Scroll down DARPA website. You'll see all kinds of fun things that have to do with that, Byron. Whew, whew. How big of the painting would you like? I would paint you one. No, man, it would be. This window is 4 feet wide, 5 feet tall. So I would probably say like a 10 by 10. 10 by 10. That way it covers that and that over there. Yeah, you're right. I am very dumb and lack knowledge because I am young and my preferential cortex, my prefrontal cortex is not developed yet. Well, actually, when I was your age, Max, I had my own car. I was the general manager of the store, and I paid for my family's house and my girlfriend's house and her family's house. I had 5 cars and a motorcycle. I was self sufficient. I'm talking about 15, 16, 17, 18. I had my own car that I bought for myself that I went to school. I got a driver's license at 15 because I did it on my own. Not a permit, not a learner's permit, a full on longevity driver's license. Would have got the motorcycle endorsement too, but I didn't apply myself to go get it. But I'm talking about ninth grade, 10th grade, high school, driving myself to school, parking and teacher parking because there's no student parking because students don't usually have cars. I did not participate in after school activities because I would leave from school and go to work. I did go to prom though, every single year. I did not have to bring a date because I danced with everybody else's girlfriend at the date because I had a car. I technically did not need to apply much to talking to females back in those days because they were impressed that at my age, I had my own car, I was running a business, and I had my own place to stay. And I was taking care of my family at the same time. Your generation doesn't do that. Your generation takes care of themselves and has the parents to take care of them also, where you're not paying for your basic needs, you're paying for your entertainment. Your parents are paying for your basic needs. And if your parents stop paying for your basic needs, you don't have enough money to pay the rent. You don't have enough money to pay for the car insurance. You don't have enough money to pay for your own cell phone bill. You don't have enough money to pay for your own college. I did. I didn't just pay for my college. I paid for my older brother's college. I paid for my older sister's college. I paid for my older sister's college in another state. And I paid for her travel back and forth to my state until I was 25. My sister got 3 degrees because of me. And my brother got a degree because of me. And then I got 3 more degrees because of me. So it's not because your prefrontal cortex is not developed, it's because you do not have the self motivation to be self sustainable and self sufficient. I mean, Michael can tell you about a side hustle that he used to do when he was 7, 8, 9 years old. Whether it was mowing lawns, washing cars, selling Kool-Aid, lemonade stands, stuff like that. I used to do the same thing back in the day. Landscaping, all this stuff. Um, um, Jolin could tell you the same thing where he's done stuff when he was, and he'd have turned that into a business now. So the fact is, you could be better than what you are. That's what we call potential. You just choose not to be. You said a month or so ago that you got a sponsorship from a skating thing, and they pay you to skate. Technically, that's a job. It ain't paying you a lot, but it's paying you enough. Now, you're supposed to be able to take that sponsorship and you're supposed to be able to advertise yourself to other skating sponsors so that they can also sponsor you. You're supposed to be able to use the skating thing as a way to help you get a business degree so that you can start up your own business. Even if you wanted to start up a skateboarding store or whatever the case may be, a skater school to teach other people how to skate or whatever the case, so that you can make money doing what you love to do. By the time you're 20, if you start now, you would have had 10 years to build a business off of what you're already doing for fun with the financial net of your father, being able to cover all of your other necessary expenses so that your dream doesn't fail because you got to pay the bills. And yet you squander the money away. So you don't have nothing after your sponsorship pays you to help you build a better future. So in 10 years, you will still be broke because you didn't think about putting your money somewhere where your money is making money for you so that in 10 years, in 15 years, you will not have to work. You will choose to work. And what you choose to do should be something that you love to do because you have enough money to cover your standard of living, even if you don't get the job that you want. Good observation. It's a curtain. Tell them, Michael. Tell them. They don't have knowledge is power. Understanding leads to wisdom. Wisdom, however, has to be earned from extensive investments. Uh, what? He's talking about he won't fake the cat, fake the funk. Okay. Let's go down to Byron. That's a problem with mega churches, but most preachers, pastors, are not like that. Okay, so small scale preachers and pastors, especially the ones that just started out, originally start out not being like that. But when they've been in the business for 20 years, yes, they end up like that. They don't have the mega church, they don't have the brand new Mercedes Benz, but they did buy their own car with the money from the building fund. The financially successful churches where they're not operating from penny to penny, because you have to understand that the pastor's job is the church. The pastor's job is the church. All he does is run that building. He doesn't do anything else. He doesn't have a second job on the side where he works at a Walmart until it's time for church on Sunday. So y'all donations pay for his standard of living. When he buys a brand new car, y'all pay for that. It doesn't matter if it's a Toyota Accord, a Toyota Corolla or a Honda Accord. It doesn't matter if it's a Nissan Maxima. It does. If it's a brand new car, the congregation paid for it. If it's a used car, the congregation paid for it. If his car is older than the building that the services are being held in, the congregation still paid for it. You understand? If he puts his kid through college, the congregation paid for it because the pastor's standard of living comes from the church. So while a smaller church that might have a congregation of like 50 can't do it the way those congregations of like 5 million can do it, a congregation of 50 or a congregation of 250, still the pastor lives off of the donations from the church. The church is still a business. It's a tax exempt business because the laws have the church and the state separate, but it's still a business. Churches that make so much money that they can pay for their staff. The pastor doesn't need for nothing because the church gives them everything they need. They don't buy it themselves. The church hands them the clothes that they're going to wear. The church hands them the stuff that they're going to take with them every day. If they need transportation, the church provides them with the transportation. But where is the church getting the money from? Because the church doesn't sell anything other than the idea of religion. And the people pay for it by donating money into the collection place to the church every time they go to the service. I mean, it's just like I, I ain't down on the church, but when you start talking about philosophy and then you start putting these wheels into motion, you start understanding that there's a lot more to this than simply just uh you know everybody's in it for the righteous reason. You start doing things for the righteous reasons, but a lot of times shit goes south. Some kids grow up to be cops because they don't like the way their neighborhood is, but after a few years on the force, they realize from the other side of the fence that they got to do things that they used to not want police officers to do so that they can keep themselves from getting killed on the job. You change after you get involved. The more you get involved from the other side of the fence, the faster you change. Usually by the blood, sweat, and tears of trial and error. Yes, sir. That's how we get it. So learn to watch the leaders and see if they practice what they preach. If they do, then build a relationship with those leaders and gradually learn to trust. That is a fantastic model. If you were to see the effort, because I had one pastor, I was talking to a pastor one time before, and I was trying to get that pastor to help some homeless people. And this pastor told me that the homeless people had to prove that they had turned their lives over to the Lord first before the pastor would provide aid to those homeless people. I'm not going to knock the man, but at the same time, you cannot get a person who is suffering closer to God because they feel like the Lord has abandoned them. In order for you to get someone closer to God, you must first take them out of the turmoil, pull them away from that den of sin, and then provide them with what would be identified as the light, peace, prosperity. Salvation is followed by thank you, God, for sending me this Savior to ease me of my strife, right? The loyalty that you would get from that, the dedication that you would get from that. This person will feel indebted to you for an extended period of time because you changed their entire life when you didn't have to. And what they will do is they will give back by putting effort into helping you help someone else. Now, look at how many of them that actually help. Look at how many of them that actually build. Look at how many of them that you actually can say, this is worth it. Then tap dance back to what we're saying right now. If you see less affirmative, not affirmative, a less effective action from the person at the top. Michael said it before. If the big boss is driving fancy cars and the workers are not, go find you a different job. If the people in the congregation are not learning and growing from the boardship, you got to go somewhere else. If the people at the bottom are not growing because of the efforts of the people at the top, the efforts of the people at the top are benefiting from the people at the bottom. And typically, it is supposed to be a bottom up situation. You start at the bottom and you work your way up to the top. But as you benefit on the bottom, you put more effort in to get to the top. But if there's no benefits for the guys at the bottom, what the fuck are we doing here? That is what I think about. Y'all put a lot of good insight in today. This was actually a pretty good weekend. Special shout out to Risk One versus One. Special shout out to Joel. What we're gonna do, special shout out to Bryant and Michael. I really appreciate all of y'all for diving in on tonight's show. I don't think I missed anybody. Max the Poser and TF Fireball. I really appreciate you guys for diving in on the show and giving us a lot of insight. Y'all covered 2 hours. I just want to say, 2 full hours. You guys have had a very deep conversation today. I hope we can carry this throughout the rest of the week with some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about. Um, I do have because I got people that I got a contract with. So I do have to wrap tonight's show up because I have to get involved with something else in the next 45 minutes. So what I want to do is before I leave, I want to make sure that y'all know I'm putting up Monday night show after. Yeah, look, I love intellectual conversations, and this was the first week that we had a large quantity. But don't worry, Jolin, I had literally an hour and a half worth of people talking about how they fucked up their relationships to queue up just in case we didn't have a deep conversation. I was not going to stop this deep conversation to get into that. This is the kind of conversations we're supposed to have every week, but not always do we have the right people here to have those conversations. So in the meantime, I always put up a place filler where people can we I can review what I see from the comments section and I can just give my insights on that. And then if somebody dives in and they have questions and they feel comfortable with talking about them, then we can dive in and we can start talking about them because sometimes okay, so here's the thing. A teacher needs to listen so that the teacher knows what needs to be taught. Leaders cannot lead from the front, they have to lead from the rear. They have to listen to their team and know what their team is missing so that they can provide the team what the team needs to be successful. The strongest leader is based on the weakest person in the group. The most successful podcast is based off of the most dumbest questions asked on the channel because the person that destroys the comment section destroys the show for everybody else. So, and then the host of the show has to curate the comment section to make sure that the people are remotely positive so that we can keep that vibe going throughout the podcast. So I'm glad that we were able to hold it down. It shows that we're growing. It shows that we're growing. 83,000 strong, but everybody's watching and listening and not very many people are talking. You got to think about the fact that with 83,000 strong and none of them are bots, 83,000 strong, and they only watch the shows on a replay. Well, a lot of them are coming from Bangladesh. Special shout out to Bangladesh, but they're watching the shows on a replay. Um, I'm going to be working on because we have to deal with some YouTube advertisement, and that's not cheap. Getting more American followers in here. That way, we can have more people in here watching the show overnight. Because after everybody gets off from work at like 9 or 10 o'clock at night, they're here 11 to 2 or 12 to 2 if you're on the East Coast. And I want to see how many people we can drag in here and get them in here on a weekly basis. Now, Monday, I have not found because I haven't had the opportunity to look. I do my own research every week. I want to have the most recent topics to review. So I'm going to be seeing how politics have changed over the past week and which countries they've changed in. I did hear something about investments in post offices, but that was in India, not in the United States. So that's something that I'm going to see if I've covered India before. And if I didn't, I'm going to do a show about that when I do India, probably next week. But I want to see what political changes we've had. Not very many because we have tax season. The government's about to shut down. They just stole the oil. So I might actually cover like how that political scenario is impacting our economy with them robbing the oil from Venezuela. But we're gonna be talking about something reasonable on Monday because when I talk about politics, I am not going to come from I'm a Republican and Republicans are smarter than Democrats perspective. I want to talk about how does governmental politics impact our money on Monday because when you and I buy gas at the gas station, if gas is going to be cheaper because they robbed Venezuela, woot. But I mean, at the same time, like Bro Logic decided to come in 5 days late and say, hey, go invest in oil. If you can buy oil stocks and make more money off of oil stocks right now, woot. I want to talk about these things. I want to talk about how political changes impacts our ability because sometimes it's not a negative impact. When they made the changes and raised the tariffs, that cost us more money. But when they drop the tariffs for the next 12 months with Japan and China, we're going to make more money. And between that and the stealing of oil from Venezuela, we're going to make more money. So we need to look at how things are changing and then see where we can put our money so that we can see how we can make money for ourselves so that we don't have to work as hard. Because the older we get, we're not getting any younger. The older we get, the harder it is to do the exact same thing we used to do 20 years ago. Which is why I'm telling you right now that we need to build a 20-year plan so that 20 years from now, we don't have to do what we're doing today. Really, if we did a 20-year plan that we could extend to 25 years so that we can stop working, live off of the interest, and continue that 20-year plan by reinvesting the difference so that we don't have to deal with the other side of things, that would be most effective. Is it glad I bought silver? It's smarter to buy silver than it is to buy gold. While it is good to buy gold, gold is almost 10 times more than silver. And when silver revalues to the level of gold, you're going to see a massive spike. You can get more ounces of silver than you can get of gold for the same price. And when silver matches gold, the more ounces you have, the more money you'll get on the back end. But it is only as valuable as what you're going to sell it for in the moment. So if governmental failure happens, your silver is going to be worth the two cows and a lamb that you traded for lunch and dinner. So it really depends. You're only going to get the profit off of it after you sell it. You're not going to get the profit off of it while you hold it. But while you hold it, you can leverage the value of the profit to get capital. So what I would have done is not just have bought silver. I would have still bought a cash dividend portfolio so that when I leverage my growth stocks, whether it's gold, silver, platinum, Bitcoin, whatever, when I leverage my growth stocks for capital loans, lines of credit towards my stock, where I can utilize to buy assets, my cash dividends can pay that loan. So if I have a $200,000 growth portfolio and $100,000 of cash dividends, that's 300 grand. I use 150 grand of that, which is 50%. They give you up to 70%. And if that 100 grand is paying me 15,000 or 18,000 a year, and that 18,000 a year is going on the capital loan that I took out for that 200 grand or 150 grand, then the stocks are paying the money. So I can get me a brand new car for free for 150 grand. I could buy me a house for free for 150 grand because the stocks will pay for the money I borrowed to go buy the asset. And now the debt on the property that I bought is separate from the deed of the property that I bought. The car that I own is separate from the bill to pay for the car. And that is when you start coming from the millionaire mindset. And that's one of the reasons why every week I give you guys information on how to make that cash dividend portfolio so that you can use the profits from the principal to invest in gold, silver, and other such stuff so that when you do decide to leverage the principal, you will also be able to turn around and utilize that to do other things because you can expand a real estate investment business by leveraging assets as long as you have the capital to pay on the loans. So if you buy a rental property, cash up front, the money that was borrowed to buy the rental property is being paid for by the stock portfolio. You turn it into a rental property. The rental property is giving you money to build on your portfolio, which means you have more money to pay towards the money that you borrow. You can turn back around because you bought the house cashed up front. You can mortgage that house for up to 65% of its value and go buy a second one. And now you've got two tenants paying for one mortgage. And you've got the stock portfolio paying for the other quantity of cash that you borrowed. You can still make sure that you have enough money where you're getting paid on a regular basis. And the expansion is coming from the customer. You're offsetting the cost of expansion on the customers. And in this same business model, if you were working in the high risk, low income family area, there are economic zones where the United States government will provide you financial grants to help you expand, where now the startup cost or the expansion cost is coming from a grant from the United States, and all you got to do is put the building there or put the building there and get reimbursed for it. And when you get reimbursed for it, guess what you can do? Put another building there and expand your profits. But it starts from having capital. whether it's your money or somebody that you know's money, to get that started. That's the problem. One of my bosses gave me silver for Christmas bonus. That's a good job. I got a pound of it somewhere in here in the shed of my grandpa too. Shoot, that's a good boss. That's a good boss. It's that if bosses treated you like that, fuck a vacation. Give me a pound of silver. Give me a pound of silver every year. That shows me that you value me. So as we wrap things up, we've got Tuesday. I'm going to be telling you guys how to put your business plan together, not your business plan, but your investment plan together, so that you can start taking money and putting it aside, so that you can start finding yourself at that $1 million percentage. Because if you're in that bottom 25 percentile, under 60,000 a year, you can find yourself reshaping your life so that you can put away a certain quantity of money so that you can find yourself at the very least at $250,000 in 10 years, where that money, not a quarter million, $500,000 in 10 years, where that money is paying you dividends, and those dividends can be utilized to enhance your standard of living. Or if you just stay the course and run it for 20 years, that you would end up with over $1 million in 20 years, where if you start doing it at 40, by 60, 65, you would be able to uh, live for the next 25 years off of your investment. And even though it's late, the average lifespan is starting to get into the late 80s, the mid to late 80s. So even in at 40, 45 years old right now, if you started a 20-year plan where you wrap things up at 60, 65 years old, and you can stop working and have enough money to live off of for the next 20 to 25 more years, the remainder, the last quarter of your life will be the best quarter of your life, because you won't have to work. You get to live life with family and build. And that's one of the reasons why I give you guys all of the different countries around the world that y'all can go and live in and go and invest in. Because if you're making money, make money for you. Even if you went to another country as a digital nomad, you don't have to get residency. You don't have to get citizenship. You can go there on a visa. You can have that visa renewed every 12 months. You can go there. You can get residency because you're going there on a regular basis, and then at the same time, still not get citizenship, but you have your money coming in from America. You could have a the extra money that you have, so that when you feel like it, you could always go back to America and shimmy and shake in America for a little while. These are things that can be done if you got enough money to do it. But we don't think about this because we're so busy entertaining ourselves on a day-to-day basis. When you stop wasting your money on bullshit, you'll come to find that you got a whole lot more stuff in your life that you could do. You understand? Those little dopamine hits for wasteful spending, impulse buying, could be offset by the dopamine hit from long-term investments, where you will find yourself financially successful in 10, 15, 20 years. You 5 years in, you start feeling good because you got enough money in case of an emergency for a year. 10 years in, you're feeling damn good because you're making as much money off your investments that you're making off of your job, so you can quit whenever you want to. 15 years in, you're making more money off of your investments than what you're making off of your job. You can quit whenever you feel like it. 20 years in, you're making 2 times more or larger than what you're making off of your current income, off your current job, which means that you can quit and take 60% of the money and reinvest it back, so that your growth every year is still going to grow. That's a good 20-year plan, where you're guaranteed, even in inflation, to still have more than enough money to pay for your standard of living for the next 25 years. And if you're putting that type of platform into a a trust, a revocable trust, a revocable living trust right now that transforms into an irrevocable trust, especially if you do one as a non-residential irrevocable trust in another country like Belarus, where it's non-taxed. You can schedule it to Belarus, and then Belarus can send it to wherever you're going to have it go to. I would technically have it go to a country that doesn't charge you taxes, and then have it redirected to a country that you plan on living in when you retire, so that when you get there, there's a shit ton of money. because like places like Japan has a limited quantity of money that you can send there every year without having to go through extra red tape paperwork. Well, if you don't live in that country and you're building money with automatic deposits going into that bank account and you're not living in that country, when you do get to that country, you might have $250,000 when you touch down. You might have $500,000 when you touch down, and you're still getting more money being sent to you, and you're only spending $10,000 a year or $15,000 a year to stay there. You would be like one of the biggest boss dogs on the block because you'd have $250,000 of assets. You would not need to work because you have a consistent quantity of money coming in from a consistent source. And when they see the regularly occurring deposits that are happening in your bank account, you can show them you're getting money from not Japan. You can live in Japan, buy a house, build it from the ground up, own it, live there as a non-citizen, and have your digital nomad visa, have money making money for you, and then enjoy life there for a year, 5 years, 10 years, where once every 11 months you have to start your paperwork so that you can renew your citizenship, your visa over there. And when it's time for you to go back, if you want to, or just shut the shit down, close it up, lock it up, shut the shit down, and you go back to America, do your thing, and then come back in a few months. We've got to think about ways to change what we do. He said, I know it's a few coins for my boss. I know, but they need to give you a pound. 18 ounces is still good. $100 of silver a year, I still feel better. If my boss gave me $100 of silver. All right. Let me go ahead and wrap things up. I want to thank you guys for coming to tonight's show. Special shout out to all the guys that participated in tonight's comment section. I Before we go, I want to say, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm gonna keep asking you, ladies, to make it make sense. So, ladies, please make it make sense. And then, fellas, I give y'all this information to help y'all become higher value men because you too could find a way to change the things that you do not like in your life and then make the effort to make that better and then navigate around the things that you cannot control in your life. So if you change the things you can control and navigate around the things that you can't, you'll have yourself a better life. And ladies, while this is a male driven podcast from the male's perspective, y'all can find yourselves also coming in and improving the things that you don't like in your life and also finding a better partner if your decisions are different when you're finding a partner. Instead of looking at how much they're wasting money on you, you look at their decision making. You can find a kind of man that you mesh with as far as decision making skills, and then y'all can grow together. Now, I want to thank you guys for coming to this and that. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.
That's my personal command. I'm not mounted on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.